the next part of Adolphus tips, and I tried recording it twice yesterday, so yeah, something went wrong with the file. Just need to find where I was at. There we go. Got Christmas decorations up. Okay. Saturday, December the 25th, 1943. Christmas Day. There's no point in pretending this was a happy Christmas. We tried to make the best out of it. We had decorations up everywhere, as usual, and a nice Christmas tree. We had our stockings all together in Grandfather's bed, but Dad wasn't there. Mum missed him a lot, and so did I. Barry was homesick too, and Grandfather was really down in the dumps all day and grumpy about moving. We had roast chicken for lunch, which did make everyone feel a little happier. I found a silver 3-penny in the Christmas pudding, and Barry found one too, so that made him forget he was homesick, for a while anyway. We all gave Grandfather a hand with the evening milking to cheer him up, and it worked, but not for long. There's only a week to go before we have to have everything out of here. It's all Grandfather can think about. The house is piled high with tea chests and boxes. The curtains and lampshades are all down. Most of the crockery is already packed. We may have the Christmas decorations up, but it doesn't feel at all like Christmas. For my present I got a pair of woolly gloves that Mum had knitted specially and secretly, and Barry had a navy blue scarf which he wears all the time, even at meal times. Mum didn't knit that, she didn't have time. We all went off to church this evening. It's the last time we'll be doing that for a while. We're going to empty it of all its precious things, stained glass windows, candlesticks, benches, in case they get damaged. The American soldiers are coming to take it all away. They'll be putting sandbags around everything that's too heavy to move, so that everything will be protected as much as possible. That's what the vicar told us. He also said they'll be needing all the help they can get. They're starting to empty the church tomorrow. Mum says we've all got to be there to lend a hand. I gave Tit some cold chicken this evening for her Christmas supper. She licked the plate until it was shiny clean. She's a bit upset, I think. She knows something's up. She can see it for herself, and she can feel it too. I think she's unhappy because she knows we're unhappy. I'm getting a bit fed up with Uncle George already. And we haven't even moved in with him yet. All he talks about is the war. The Germans this, and the Russians that. He sits there with his ear practically glued to the radio, tutting and huffing at the news. Even today on Christmas Day, he has to go on and on about how we should bomb Germany to smithereens because of all they've done to us. Then once he got talking about it, everyone was talking about it, arguing about it. So I came up to bed and left them to it. I suppose it's supposed to be a day of peace and goodwill towards all men, and all they can talk about is war. It makes me so sad, and I shouldn't be sad on Christmas Day. But now I am. Happy Christmas, Dad. P.S. Just before I finished my diary, I heard Barry crying in his room, so I went to see him. He didn't want to tell me at first. Then he said he was a bit homesick, missing Mum, he said, and his dad, mostly his dad. How could I say? What could I say? My dad is alive, and I'm living in my own home, going to my own school. Then I had an idea. Shall we say Happy Christmas to the cows? I said. He cheered up at once. So we crept downstairs in our dressing gowns and slippers and ran out to the barn. They were all lying down in the straw, grunting and chewing the cud. Their calves curled up as well, asleep beside them. Barry crouched down and stroked one of them, who sucked on his finger until he giggled and pulled it out. That's a picture of them stroking the cows. Sorry, that bookmark. We were walking back across the yard when he told me. I hate the radio, he said suddenly. It's always about the war and the bombing raids, and that's when I think of Mum most, and I miss her most. I don't want her to die. I don't want her to be an orphan. I don't want to be an orphan. I held his hand and squeezed it. I was too upset to say anything. Sunday, December the 26th, 1943. I've had the strangest day and the happiest day for a long time. I met someone who's the most different person I've ever met. He's different in every way. He looks different, he sounds different, he is different. And best of all, he's my friend. We were supposed to be helping to move things out of the church, but mostly we were just watching because the Yanks were doing it all for us. Grandfather's right, they do chew gum a lot, but they're very happy looking, always laughing and joking around. Some of them were carrying sandbags into the church, whilst others were carrying out pews and chairs, hymn books and kneelers. Suddenly I recognised one of them. He was the same black soldier I had seen in the jeep a while ago, and he recognised me too. "Hi there, how are you doing?" he said. I never saw anyone smile like he did. His whole face lit up with it. He looked too young to be a soldier. He seemed so pleased to see me there, someone he recognised. He bent down so that his face was very close to mine. I got 3 little sisters back at home in Atlanta. That's in Georgia, and that's in the United States of America. Way across the sea, he said. And they's all pretty just like you. Then another soldier came along. I think he was a sergeant or something, because he had lots of stripes on his arm, upside down ones, not like our soldiers' stripes at all. The sergeant told him he should be carrying sandbags, not chatting to kids, so he said, "Yes, sir." Then he went off, smiling back at me over his shoulder. The next time I saw him, he was coming past me with the sandbag under each arm. He stopped right by me and looked down at me from very high up. "What do you call yourself, girl?" he asked me, so I told him. Then he said, "I'm Adolphus T. Madison. That's T for Thomas. Private First Class US Army. My friends call me Addie. I'm mighty pleased to make your acquaintance, Lily. A ray of Atlanta sunshine." That's what you are, a ray of Atlanta sunshine. There's a picture with him carrying the 2 sandbags under his arm. No one has ever talked to me like that before. He looked at me fully in the eye as he spoke, so I knew he meant every word he said, but the sergeant shouted at him again, and he had to go. Then Barry came along, and for the rest of the morning we stood at the back of the church, watching the soldiers coming and going, all of them fetching and carrying sandbags now, and Addie would give me a great big grin every time he went by. The vicar was fussing about them like an old hen, telling the Yank soldiers they had to be more careful, particularly when they were sandbagging the front. "The front's very precious, you know," said the vicar. I could see they didn't like being pestered, but they were all too polite and respectful to say anything. The vicar kept on and on nagging at them. "It's the most precious thing in the church. It's Norman, you know, very old." and a couple of Yanks were just coming past us with more sandbags a few minutes later when one of them said, "Who is this old Norman guy anyway?" After that, Barry and me couldn't stop ourselves giggling. The vicar told us we shouldn't be giggling in the church, so we went outside and giggled in the graveyard instead. We told Grandfather and Mum about that when we got back this evening, and they laughed so much they nearly cried. It's been a happy, happy day. I hope Addy doesn't get killed in the war. He's so nice. I'm going to pray for him tonight, and for Dad too. Tips has just brought in a dead mouse and dropped it at my feet. She knows how much I hate mice, dead or alive. I really wish she wouldn't do it. She's sitting there licking her lips and looking so pleased with herself. Sometimes I think I understand why Barry doesn't like cats. Monday, December the 27th, 1943. It's my very last night in my own bedroom until now. Until now I don't think I thought it would really ever happen. Not to us, not to me. It was happening to everyone else. Everyone else was moving out, but somehow I just didn't imagine that the day would ever come when we'd have to do the same. But tomorrow is the final day, and tomorrow will come. This time tomorrow my room will be empty. The whole house will be empty. I've never slept anywhere else in my whole life except in this room. For the first time I think I understand why Grandfather refused to leave for so long. It wasn't just because he was being stubborn and difficult and grumpy. He loves this place, and so do I. I look around the room and it's part of me. I belong here. I'll start crying if I write any more, so I'll stop. Tuesday, December the 28th, 1943. Our first night at Uncle George's, and it's cold. But there's something worse than that, much worse. Tips has gone missing. We haven't got her with us. We moved up here today. We were the last ones in the whole village to move out. Grandfather is very proud of that. We had lots of help. Mrs. Blumfeld came, and so did Addie, along with half a dozen other Yanks. We couldn't have managed without them. Everything is here. All the tea chests, all the furniture. Most of it is stored in Uncle George's granary under the old tarpaulin. But the cows are still back at home on the farm. We'll go back for them tomorrow, Grandfather said, and drive them up the lane. Uncle George has made room here for all of us. He's very kind, I suppose, but he talks to himself too much, and he grunts and wheezes a lot. And when he blows his nose, it sounds like a foghorn. He's very dirty and scruffy and untidy, which Mum doesn't like, and I think he's a bit proud too.
It is not like that.
I was only trying to be polite, because Mum said I should be. When I asked him which chair was his before I sat down, Uncle George said, "They am all my chairs, Lil. I wish he wouldn't call me Lil. Only Mum and Dad call me that." He was laughing as he said it, but he meant it. I know he did. I think it's because he's Mum's eldest brother that he's a bit bossy with us. He keeps saying Dad shouldn't have gone off to the war and left her on her own. That's what I think too, but I don't like it when Uncle George says it. Anyway, she's not on her own. She's got Grandfather and she's got me. Mum says I have to be very patient with him because he's a bachelor, which means that he's lived on his own all his life, which is why he's untidy and doesn't know how to get on with people. Very well. I'll try, but it's not going to be easy. And what's more, he looks like a scarecrow, except when he's in his home guard uniform. When he's in his uniform, he looks very pleased with himself. Grandfather says he doesn't do much in the home guard, that he just sits up in his lookout post on top of the hill. They're supposed to be looking for enemy ships and planes, but Grandfather says they just have a good natter and a smoke. I miss my room at home already, my bedroom. My bedroom here is not just cold, it's very small, a bit like a cupboard. A cupboard I have to share with Mum. Barry's in with Grandfather. It was the only way to fit us all in. Mum and me have to share a bed too. But I don't mind that. We'll cuddle up. She'll keep me warm. I haven't got a table, so I'm writing this sitting up in my bed with my diary on my knees. I wish Tips was here. I miss her, and I'm really worried about her. She ran off when everyone came in the house to carry the furniture out. I called and called, but she didn't come. I'm trying my best not to be worried. Mum says she's just gone off on her wanders somewhere, that she'll come back when the house is quiet again. She's sure she'll be there when we go to fetch the animals tomorrow. She keeps saying there are still 3 days to go before they close the farm off, but I can't stop thinking that after that we won't be allowed for 6 months or even more. What if Tips isn't there tomorrow? What if I can't find her? Barry's happier than ever because he's got 2 farms to work with and 2 tractors. But what's more surprising is that Grandfather is happy too. I thought he was going to be very sad when we left home. I was there when he locked the door and slipped the key into his waistcoat pocket. He stood up. He stood looking up at the house for some moments. He even tried to smile, but he never said anything. He just looked at my hand and Barry's. He just took my hand and Barry's, and we all walked off without looking back. He made himself at home in Uncle George's kitchen right away. He's got his feet in the oven already, which he can see Uncle George doesn't like, but Grandfather's much older than he is, so Uncle George will just have to put up with it, won't he? Oh yes, I forgot, this afternoon Addie introduced me to his friend Harry, while we were carrying out our kitchen table. He's from Atlanta too, and he's black like Addie is. They're both quite difficult to understand sometimes, because they speak English differently from us. Addie does most of the talking. Harry's my older brother, Lily. Not my brother, if you get what I mean. Not my older brother. Not my brother, if you get my meaning. Just my friend, like twins, ain't we, Harry? Always on the lookout for one another, Harry and me. We growed up together, same street, same town. We was born on the same day too, 25th of November. Both of us is 18. But I'm the oldest by 6 hours. That's what our mamas told us. And they should know, I reckon. Ain't that right, Harry? Harry smiled at me and nodded. Harry don't say much, Addie said. He thinks real deep. The 2 of them worked together all day, fetching and carrying. They must be very strong too. They picked up Grandfather's dresser all by themselves. No huffing, no puffing. They just picked it up, as if it was light as a feather. That's them picking up the wardrobe. That one's Addie, and that one's Harry. I keep thinking I hear Tips outside, but every time I look, it's Uncle George's ginger tomcat meowing around the yard. I just hope Tips gets along with Uncle George's cat. Tips doesn't much like other cats. But if I've got to be polite with Uncle George, then she'll have to be polite to Uncle George's cat, won't she? this time tomorrow, Tips will be here and everything will be just tickety-boo. That word always makes me smile, even when I'm sad. So I'll write it again. Tickety-boo. Tickety-boo. The lamp's just gone out, so I suppose I'll have to finish now. Thursday, December 30th, 1943. I still can't find Tips. I've been looking for her all day today, and all yesterday too. I looked in every barn, every shed. Grandfather opened up the house again for me, and I went into every room, up into the attic too. I looked in all the cupboards, just in case she'd got herself shut in by mistake. Grandfather even climbed up the ladder to look in the roof valleys. I wandered the fields, tapping her bowl with a spoon, calling and calling, then listening for her. All I could hear were cawing crows and the sound of the wind in the trees and the rumble of a tractor engine in the distance. Once they'd driven the cows and sheep up the lane to Uncle George's, everyone came back to help me. Mrs. Blumfeld went off to search the village on her bike with Barry on the back. They didn't find Tips, but they did find lots of Yanks. They were all over the place. They said in lorries and jeeps, and some of them in tanks. Mum still says that I'm not to worry. Grandfather says that cats have 9 lives, that Tips will turn up as she always does. And it's true, she always has. But I do worry. I can't think about anything else now except Tips. She's out there somewhere in the night, cold and wet, hungry and lost. And I've only got one more day to find her before they close off the farm. I'm going to get up early tomorrow. Barry says he'll come with me. We're going to look and look until we find her, he says. I'm not coming to Uncle George's until I do. Coming back to Uncle George's until I do. Our farm looked strange when I went back today. So empty and silent. A phantom farm. A house full of ghosts. Be there tomorrow, Tips. Please be there. It's your last chance. Getting exciting. 5 more minutes. Friday, December the 31st, 1943. I never want to live another day like this. I think I knew right from the start we wouldn't find her. There were too many people out looking. I knew they wouldn't. They would only frighten her away. And they did. If it had just been Barry and me and Mum and Grandfather, maybe we'd have found her. Tips knows us. It wasn't her fault. Mrs. Blumfeld was only trying to be helpful, but she's gone and told everyone how Tips was lost and brought practically the whole village along with her. She was there at dawn organising the search. The Yanks came too, dozens of them, Addie and Harry telling them all the places they had to look. They combed the whole farm, every barn, every feed bin, every corner of every field. All along the stream, they went searching down the Bluebell Wood, down in the Dishurst quarry. And I went with them, trying to tell them all the time to go more quietly. Just to look, not to call out. But it was no use. I could hear them all over the farm, banging tins, trying to call her, trying to sweeten Tips in. All morning long it drizzled, and in the afternoon a sea mist came rolling in after the fields and covered the whole farm in thick fog, so you couldn't see further than a few feet in front of you. There was no point in even looking anymore. We listened instead. But there was nothing to hear. Even the crows were silent. I think I've been crying off and on all day. as the hours passed and hope faded, Barry kept on and on telling me he was sure we'd find her sooner or later. And in the end, I got cross and shouted at him, which I shouldn't have done. He was just trying to cheer me up, trying to be nice. That's the trouble with him, he always tries to be nice. Uncle George just said that a cat's a cat, that there are other cats I can have, which didn't exactly help. It was nearly dark when one of the Yanks, with upside-down stripes on his arm, said he was sorry, but he had orders to close the place off now. So we had to leave. Addy came up and gave me some chocolate. Hershey bar, he said. It'll make you feel better, and don't you worry. None, Lily. I ain't making no promises, but if the old cat's still living out there, we're gonna find her. One way or the other. You can be real sure of that, so don't you worry none, Lil, you hear? They closed the barbed wire behind us, then cutting us off from our home and from Tips. That's a picture of him giving them the bar of chocolate. I promised myself as I watched them that I would go back and find her, and I will too, I will. I gave Barry half of my Hershey bar to make up for being so mean to him, and we ate it before we got back to Uncle George's. Addy was right, it made me feel better, but I think that was more because I gave half of it to Barry. I'm coughing a lot and I'm feeling hot and sweaty all over. I have been ever since we got back. Mum says I've got to chill and that I've to stay in bed tomorrow, else it'll get on my chest. I hated today, every horrible minute of it, except for Addy and the Hershey bar. The only hope I've got left is that maybe, just maybe, Addy and Harry might still find Tips. I've got this feeling they might. I don't know why. One thing's for sure though. If they don't find her, then I'm going to crawl into the wire and find her for myself, no matter what they say. They can put up all the barbed wire they like. They can shoot all the shells they want. Nothing's going to keep me out. I'm never, ever going to give up on Tips. Never. That's it, guys. We're past halfway now. Night night. Hi guys. So I'm sorry I didn't upload a book Sunday last weekend. As you know, some of you know, I was away. I went to surprise Bethan, mostly known as Simple Whispers, who I know very well, and